Hey YouTube, Moose Cow here with the first rule video for Kings and Kaisers. And I've been meaning to make these for a while now, make some different videos for Kings and Kaisers and show off, what's different about it, how it plays, and so on and so forth. But now that busy season with work has been slowing down now I'll have some time to get into that. So it felt like an appropriate time to do it. And it also felt appropriate to start with the field technology investment phase and doing an overview of that and how that works. Because appropriately, this is actually where the development of this game started. Before I even met Madman, after playing 1914, Accidentalized 1914, after playing that, this is kind of my brain had started going with how to incorporate technology into it. And if you're familiar with like Axis and Allies, typical Axis and Allies field technology, whether it's classic, anniversary edition, or revised, or out of box global, 1940 global, or BBR, if you're familiar with those versions and how technology works in those versions, they're all very much like superpowers. And like if you get super subs, all of your subs on the map become super subs, and that's cool and all, but it feels very like superpower-esque to me, which kind of gets a little, I don't know, tiresome to me a little bit. And it's cool. It's still fun, but with like BBR, you get to develop your technology, and after playing so many games with that, it feels very kind of like differently scripted, if that makes any sense. Just it feels scripted in that like certain powers are going to develop certain technologies, and then certain technologies just never see the light of day on the map, pretty much. Like in BBR, Russia's always going to develop self-propelled artillery. Maybe if they feel experimental, they'll do heavy tanks, but for the most part, they won't touch the other field technologies. UK almost always goes ATC, things like that, So I wanted to come up with something, even way back then, before I even met Madman, come up with something different, and like looking at what was available marker wise on historical board gaming, and kind of coming up with a way of doing something different. And so what I came up with was what I call field technology, where instead of being a mass superpower, it's technology that influences specific areas on the map, what's in the field. And it's different from like a superpower in that it also is, you don't develop it, it's still random in terms of what you get. You're not really sure what your engineers or your scientists are going to come up with, and so on and so forth. So it adds kind of a fog of war element to it without being like grossly overpowered or anything like that, So like if one power gets machine guns, or a machine gun, they're not all of their infantry are going to have machine guns. Only infantry, some infantry in one territory, like say Russia, for example. If they get a machine gun, it goes down in one territory. It doesn't go down in all of them. It goes down in one. And so that makes it very interesting, and seeing how it unfolds of what techs become plentiful on the map, and just how every game is different because of that. And it's interesting, but again, it's adds a fog of war element. It's not super overpowered, and for the most part, every power can benefit in some way or another from the majority of these techs, right? And unless there's like a certain situation, or they already have too many of one tech or something like that, right? Anyway, so I'm just going to go ahead and get into it, and I'll do a few different videos going over the different techs in detail, but right now I'm just going to do an overview of the phase in general and how it works. So, all right, with that little introduction out of the way, let's get into it. I'll be covering here. Let's start with the rule book. So, if you do not have the Kings and Kaisers rule book, in the video description, check the video description, and there'll be a link to a digital file of this rule book if you do not have it, and there'll be a link to the card deck. The card deck that you can get from Combat Miniatures. I'll go back up to that in a second. You can order this rule book from Combat Miniatures as well, but the digital file for it is available in Google Drive link. So what I'm going to be going over is on this portion of page 15. page 16 and the top portion of page 17. Yeah, so you can get a physical copy of a rule book at Combat Miniatures as well. You can also reach out to Madman at grandcommandgaming@gmail.com if you want to talk to him directly. If he has any in stock, he'll probably, he'd be down to send them to you at cost plus shipping and so on and so forth or whatnot. Otherwise, available on Combat Miniatures. The card deck, we have the card deck is divided up into two parts. First part is all national objectives. Second half of the card deck is all rule references. You can buy each of them at Combat Miniatures. So this is in the rule reference section. There's a field technology summary card, a card for minefields, card for improved naval mines, card for elites, card for poison gas, card for machine guns, card for trench works and barbed wire, card for military bases, and a card for naval ports. All right. Let's see. Okay. So, all right, now with that out of the way, let's get into it. So these are the different technology markers, and I have some like dice laid out just as like references when I get to the individual text and whatnot. But basically how it starts is when the game starts, every power starts with one field technology token. They can then purchase another field technology token if they want, and they can have basically a maximum of 3. You can only purchase one at a time, and if you have 3 in your treasury at the start of your turn, you cannot purchase another, okay? The only powers that cannot purchase field technology tokens or invest in field technology are China, either faction or United. China cannot invest at all. And if the Russian Civil War is going, which is always cool, the faction that controls Moscow may invest in field technology, and the Soviets start with Moscow because it's their capital. So they start with a technology token, but the whites can't unless they take control of Moscow. And if they take control of Moscow, they're probably in a pretty good spot. But the Soviets can, because they start with control of Moscow, they can invest in field technology. So that's cool. All right. Okay, let's see, let's get into it. So let's say the game starts and you're Austria-Hungary, or I'm Austria-Hungary, or somebody's Austria-Hungary, right? So they start with 1 right off the bat, 1 field technology token, and they decide to buy another. Field technology tokens cost 5 IPCs, so they have 2 separate tokens that they can roll for, okay? So this phase happens before the purchase and repair units phase. So they have 2 technology tokens to roll for. Theoretically, if they don't get any technological achievements, they can buy a 3rd one on their next turn. But we have 2 to roll for as Austria-Hungary. And you roll 2 dice per token, 1 token at a time. So you roll 2 at a time. You do not roll all 4 because if you do not get a technological achievement, then if you do not get a technological achievement with 1 token, then you add it back into your treasury, or keep it in your treasury, and it carries over to the next turn and you roll again. So you want to roll, much like technology in general, with most accidentalized games, you're playing with D6 dice, and you want to roll 1 through 4 when you're conducting combat and such. With field technology, to get achievements, you want to roll, when it's your time to roll for them, you want to roll 5s or 6s, any combination of 5s or 6s, okay? 2 5s, 2 6s, a 5 and a 6, and for anything like that. And any 5 and 6 you roll for, any achievement you roll successfully, that is 1 field technology you get to collect and roll for and see what you get. So it's possible you can get 2 field technologies with 1 token. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and roll as Austria-Hungary. I'm going to roll for my first field technology token, and I get a 5 and a 1. Okay, so I get 1 achievement there, and I trade that token in, and this token I will roll for, and I get a 4 and a 1. So this one had no technological achievement, so I'm just going to keep that in my treasury, that one. But the other one I will trade in, and I'm going to roll. So that's I got one achievement, so I'm going to roll 1 die, and I got a 2. Okay, that's cool. I got an elite. So if you roll a 1, you get a choice between a minefield or improved sea mines. If you roll a 2, you get an elite. If you roll a 3, you get poison gas. If you roll a 4, you get a machine gun. If you roll a 5, you get a trench works. And if you get another trench works and you already have one in play, you can add a barbed wire to the original. And if you roll a 6, you can get a choice of facility, either a military base or a naval port, or player's choice of any of the other techs. More often than not, people are going to pick one of the other techs. Sometimes these do come in, these can be handy, but more often than not, people usually like the player's choice aspect of it and whatnot. Excuse me. Okay, so let me just add these back up here. Actually, I'll add that back up here. Okay, so basically, yeah, you get a choice between those if you roll a 6. So Austria-Hungary got an elite. So I'm just going to go over here to my marker bin, grab an elite. I got them like labeled, like listed, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's like my order. So I got an elite, and I can add that in any territory that I control that has units in it. That has my units in it. Okay. Let's see, got that little elite marker. Focus on that. Yeah, it's nice. Okay, so basically, like if I wanted to, I would be able to place that in Dalmatia or any territory that I control, and I'll pair that with 3 infantry in Dalmatia. So those 3 will now be elites. These 3 techs, elites, poison gas, and machine guns, these will pair with your infantry, or in the case of poison gas, artillery. And so what we like to do is put those, they each pair with up to 3 of those units. And then to differentiate, we add a marker on top. So these are just random powers I pulled out to show. So essentially, theoretically, if Germany gets an elite, you'd throw it on like that, and you do that to distinguish between, you know, if the Austrians and the Germans meet up, which is the elite, you know. Poison gas would be like that. You know, same thing for France with the machine gun. You get the point. Okay. All right. So you have to place technology in a territory that you control. These ones that move, you can move them into hostile territories or contested territories. You just have to place them in territories that you control. Okay. The other technologies, they don't move. So minefields, sea mines, trench works, base facilities, those don't move. So there's no issue with that. But for these 3 techs, you pair them with units on top of chips. An elite each of them compare with up to 3 units, but they're always considered attached to at least 1. So like machine gun, for example, machine gun is not like a living human. It's attached to like 1 infantry. So you could like break off the machine gun from a stack at any point in time with 1 infantry, because that 1 infantry has to move the machine gun, right? So it's always, you know, once you pair them, they're considered permanently paired to 1 of the units, but they can pair with up to 3, right? Okay. So these can be placed in any territory you control. The facilities, however, if you get them via field technology, you have to place them in original territories. And I'll get more into the stipulations with those, because there are a few based off of your mobilization limits and whatnot that are on the board, you know. So you can't, if you have like, I'll get into it a little later, but like you can't put one in Vienna because a military base in Vienna, because you already have production capability there, for example. Now, if I had gotten an elite, if I got the elite and I decided not to place it, that I didn't want to place it yet, you can always keep it. You don't have to place your field technology right away. Most of the time you will, but say you're indecisive about whatever it is, or you want to save it for later, you can place it in your capital, upside down in your capital, to show that it's part with your, that it's you know, in your treasury. The only downside to that is if your capital is snagged, well then the unplaced field technology, along with any technology tokens that you have and your money, they all get snagged. So if Italy comes in and snags Vienna, well, they get that and this and the money, of course. All right. And then the other big rule for field technology is that you can only have one type of field technology per power in a territory. So Germany can never have multiple machine guns in Rhine province. But if, say, Austria-Hungary comes up here, well, Germany can have a machine gun there, and Austria can have a machine gun there, but Germany cannot have two machine guns in Rhine province. They have to be in separate territories. So that's basically the one little caveat. You cannot doom stack field technology. So there you go. That's basically a good little overview. I will get into the phase in general. I will get into the other field technologies in separate videos. So stay tuned and await further content.